Hey guys, it's HalfwayDead here, with the second part of the Bakkes Mod tutorial series. This episode is going to be all about custom training and quick settings. I already talked about installing Bakkes Mod in the last episode, as well as the default bindings, which let you skip around in shots in custom training, so you can select any shot that you want, or get a random shot, or mirror shots, like this. But yeah, if you haven't seen that, you should probably watch that first, because it goes over the basics and this is more advanced on top of that. So what Bakkes Mod can actually do is make custom training better in a scientifically proven manner. And the way it does this is by adding randomness to the training. So while you're usually training shots, they're always identical. So if I reset this shot, it's gonna be the same every time. It's gonna bounce exactly the same, and I can practice the exact way I want to hit this, want to go up for it, and get used to it and score it every time. That seems easy, and you can practice a shot and you can get better at it, but this accuracy actually doesn't translate into real games. And there have been numerous scientific studies on this topic. And the way you can prevent that is by adding randomness to the training. So the randomness will throw you off and will mean that you actually have to estimate where the ball is going. And instead of just practicing the same thing over and over again, you will actually practice something different every time, and that translates into real games way better. So if you're more interested in that research, I'm gonna post an interesting video or two interesting videos in the description, as well as some papers. So let's look at the types of randomness that we can add. So if we open the Bakkes Mod GUI with F2, there is this custom training tab. And in this custom training tab, there's everything we're going to use today. And yeah, first up, we got automatically shuffle playlists. I already talked about how you can select a random shot in the last episode with D-pad up or 4 on the keyboard. That's just gonna select any random shot, 18, 22, 10, 1. And if you just want to play through a pack normally, just score every goal and get your points added up so you can see a percentage at the end, then you can't use those bindings, because those are gonna skip the points that you get. And in that case, you can just turn on automatically shuffle playlists. And now if I reload this training, which was I believe air roll ground shots, now you can see this is not the same first shot it was last time, and every time I open up this training, it's gonna be a different first shot, different second shot, and the order is just gonna be random. And that means if you go into this training pack, you're not gonna train in the same order every time, so at least you have to adapt a bit. Another thing you can add right here is the automatic mirroring, and that just means that it's automatically gonna either mirror the shot or not mirror it, which means if this shot, I can reset it. I'm on the right now and have to shoot towards the left, and I can do the same shot again by resetting it, and then it's gonna randomly mirror it. One thing that isn't random but will also add some variance to your gameplay is use free play map for custom training. So right now this pack is using Champions Field. If I click on this and then I go into free play and select back with park, for example, now it knows that, and if I go into the same pack, it's actually gonna open on back with park, and that will allow you to train on any map. Before I get to the most important part, there is another setting right here, and that is the boost limitation, and I can set this to anywhere I want. And by default it's -1, which means unlimited, which is what you usually get in custom training. But if I set this to 100, now I will actually lose boost. And I usually like to set it to 100 because it's just way more realistic. In a normal game, you're never gonna have unlimited boost, and you can still pick up boosts. So any realistic scenario that you're gonna have in game, you can also have in custom training that way. Alright, I already called these the most important features, and that's because they add variance. And that's what's actually gonna make your training random. And you can see there are a bunch of options here. For example, a player start velocity, I can set this right here. And that means the player is gonna start every shot with 1000 Unreal units per second speed. That might not be as noticeable as I wanted, so I'm just gonna turn it to 2000, which is almost supersonic. And as you can see, as soon as I start driving, it's gonna put me at 2000 speed. And as you can already see, there are two slider ends here, and those give you the random range. So if the left one gives me the minimum, so this would be minimum 0 starting speed, which is the usual what you get in custom training, and maximum 2000 starting speed, and it's just gonna pick a random number in that range. For the rest of the examples, I decided that I should probably just show it in the creation screen. So I'm gonna start creating a pack right here and a new shot. And now I can look at the options. There's ball speed variance. So if I added the ball right here, you can see the strength, and that determines how much speed the ball will have when it gets shot. And basically what the speed variance does is it's gonna be somewhere in between normal speed that I just set here, or it's gonna be up to 5% stronger or 5% weaker. That is the default setting. And obviously you can move these sliders around like you want them. Then there is the trajectory rotation variance, which is basically just how much the angle changes. So this is an angle change, and the angle could change by up to 2.5% in one direction or the other direction, or up, down. Any direction is possible, and it's just a random value in between that. I believe the percentage is based on a full circle. So 100% would mean it could turn a full circle, and 2.5% just means it can turn 2.5% of a full circle. And then there's the ball location variance, which just means it can in X and Y direction, which are these two directions. So it can vary by 150 Unreal units right now with these settings, and the ball has a diameter of 180 Unreal units. So this variance is plus minus 150, which is a total variance of 300. And that means it can vary by about 1.5 times the ball diameter. There's also a separate variance for height, because there are a lot of shots that start on the floor or very close to the floor, and if you just use the same offset, then they're just gonna start spawning in the floor, and that doesn't really work that well. Then there is the ball spin, and this is actually really interesting. I'm gonna go back out of this and back to a training pack, because usually training packs have absolutely no ball spin. So usually what you would have is just when you turn the variance off, and I have this rebound shot right here, it's gonna be exactly no spin every time, and that makes this rebound shot very, very predictable. The problem is that rebounds are especially affected by spin. And if I enable the variance right here, and I can even put all these ones really low so they don't have that big of an impact, just the spin has a big impact. So right now only the spin will have a big impact. I'm gonna reset this shot, and this already makes it a lot different to hit this shot perfectly. And I mean, I should probably hit this every time, anytime, because it's still a really, really easy shot and almost no variance, but it's already a lot harder. And if you add the entire variance that we had right here, that makes this shot actually quite unique every time, and a lot harder than just without variance. Last but not least, there is the training time slider. Obviously in the training pack, a creator can set the amount of time everyone has for a shot, and you can just overwrite this here, but this is not per shot basis. This is for every shot. So if I set this to 11 seconds, then I'm gonna have 11 seconds of time for every shot, unless I change it again. Okay, those are all the variance features, but how do you even know which setting you should set this to? I mean, obviously you can play around with these sliders, but that's gonna take a lot of time to get used to it. And that's why I already did that a long time ago. I spent a couple of hours in these custom trainings and made a couple of presets that you can see in the quick settings tab right here on the left. And there's high variance, medium variance, low variance, and very low variance. And then there's also a preset for no variance, but it doesn't really matter if you turn this off or use this preset. It's just so you have everything on the same screen. So what are these presets intended for? I'm just going to go ahead and show that in a training pack for each of these presets. So I'm going to start with high variance. This is going to create very unique shots. So you can look here and it's more than we had before. It's 7% ball speed difference, 5% on the ball trajectory, and 250 on the ball location. That's really a lot. And the problem, if you have something high like this, it can actually break a lot of shots. So that's why it doesn't work with every training pack. And you need a training pack that works well with it. Otherwise, you should use one of the lower settings. So one that works really well with it is So You Think You Can Clear, which is just a bunch of backboard clears. And if you disable the variance here, you can see there's only 7 shots, and you can basically learn all of these shot positions by mind. You can know exactly where this ball is landing on the wall. And you're never gonna actually have to estimate where exactly it's landing, because you know where it's landing after you've played this for a bit. It's only 7 shots. If you enable the variance, however, then, well, this is not the same shot. Well, anyway, if I go to this shot, you can see it already hit the side wall. It usually never happens, but it usually hits the back wall. You can see this one will hit the side wall again, and then you have to adapt. And this is all the exact same shot, and as you can see, it can go very high, very low, with a lot more power, with a lot less power, a lot further out, a lot further to the middle, and it's basically one shot that already covers a good portion of the backboard. And if you combine this with just the random shot feature, so press 4 on the keyboard or up on the D-pad, then you can get a completely random shot that basically is anywhere on the backboard, and you have to clear it. And the great part about this is that it even can go on target sometimes. As you can see, okay, that was very close, but sometimes some of these go on target, and that's actually good that you have to adapt and quickly save the ball. So this simple training pack with only 7 shots and this much variance can basically train you for any kind of backboard clear there is. That is pretty amazing in my opinion, and it really shows how great this variance feature is. So the high variance pack, if it works, it's great, but it's gonna break a lot of packs in the sense that either the shot is behind a wall or the shot is unscorable. So if that happens, you want to go down to medium variance. And a pack that works great with medium variance, in my opinion, is a warm-up pack or just any consistency pack. Unlike the high preset, which changed the angle up to 5%, this one only does it by 2.5%, which is also a massive difference, and the location is also a lot more constrained. And in this training pack, where there are redirects and defensive clears, this one's actually a pretty good example because it can roll on the wall with this preset, but it can also bounce weirdly. And then the game could actually screw you over like this. And if you're not prepared for that, if you're not training that because you're training without variance and the same shot happens every time, then you're not going to be ready for it in a real game. Overall, it can be said that the medium variance preset really still adds a lot of variance, but if it works with the training pack, then I definitely recommend medium. And only if it doesn't work, I would go below to the low variance preset. This works well in a pack like this because if the ball variance is too high on the first touch, then you probably can't save it and get a second touch. The reason I would recommend it for a pack like this is because medium variance can change the trajectory by so much that it's really hard to get the ball onto a trajectory where you can even double tap it. And with the low variance, there is a difference, and there is spin on a shot like this. It makes a lot of difference whether there's spin. And this ball is not gonna bounce the same every time. But it's just not gonna be as extreme as the medium preset, which means you can still put, in theory, every shot on target with this pack. But it's just obviously not the easiest. Let's look at the values here for a second. We can see the rotation variance went from 2.5% to 1.5%, and the speed variance was also limited. So the speed can get reduced by 3%, but only increased by up to 1.5%. And that's not to make it easy, but the problem is that there are a lot of redirect packs that if you go 3% faster, then it's basically impossible to reach the shot. And that's why I set it that low, because otherwise it would be impossible to reach certain shots. And then if somehow your pack still doesn't work with the low preset, there's the very low preset, even though I don't really know much where this is necessary. And this just makes it so the ball is never faster, because yeah, there are some shots where you have to go full speed to even reach it at all. Then there's only a tiny difference in trajectory rotation, and there's still a bit of ball spin, because I don't really see a reason why you wouldn't have ball spin on a ball, because usually in game players hit the ball and it has a lot of spin afterwards. It also never breaks any shot, it just makes it harder to estimate. So there are still possibilities for how your training pack could still break, and that happens if you have a training pack where the ball is just hovering in the air. If the ball is supposed to have 0 speed. In that case, you will have to turn off the variance, otherwise the ball will likely fall or fly or whatever. These are all the presets for custom training variants. And I think next time we'll look at how you can create your own quick presets as well as bind stuff. But for now you can use these, or just use the sliders manually if you don't like my settings. But you may have also seen that there are other quick settings, and I want to go over these quickly. There is the normal mode, which are just the default bindings I already talked about in the previous video. But if you changed your bindings, then you can use this button to get back to the defaults. Then there is the air dribble mode, and we already know one command from the air dribble mode, which is the roll 2 command. But if I press this, then we have different bindings, and these are meant for free play again. So if I press 1 now, or down on the D-pad, then the ball gets shot away, and that is supposed to be for setting up an air dribble off the wall. And this is, of course, if you have the ball in front of you already, it's kind of unnecessary, because you can just roll it up the wall yourself, and that's what you're gonna do in a real game anyway. But if the ball is on the other side of the field, this can also teleport it right there and make it easy. Then on D-pad left, or 2 on the keyboard, we have the bounce away command. So that's for bounce dribble. Bounce is pretty high. And then on D-pad right, or 3 on the keyboard, it bounces towards you. It's for those kinds of bounce air dribbles. And then the D-pad up, or 4 on the keyboard, is roll towards you. And all of these commands are meant to make air dribbling easier. And that concludes the air dribble mode bindings. The Python plugin is currently disabled, so these won't work for now. But there's also the wall hit mode, and as you can see, the bindings are shown when you hover over it, so you don't have to go back to this video to figure it out. Right or 3 to change the wall hit mode, and 4 to shoot a wall hit. Or 4 or up, of course. And yeah, the modes will get shown. Was it actually? I think these bindings are wrong. Yeah, they're reversed. At least on keyboard. I just pressed 4 to change the wall hit mode and 3 to shoot it. So there are a couple of modes. They're expert, default, freeze, and pop. I'm gonna start with the default mode. It's just a wall hit. as you would expect. Then there's the expert mode, which I believe is supposed to make you fly further away from the wall so you can practice wall aerials and not really wall shots. Then there's the freeze mode, which, well, just freezes the wall somewhere close to the wall, and that's the hardest part of Rocket League, of course. And then there's the pop mode, and I don't think this has even anything to do with wall shots, because I think it just pops the ball anywhere. So those are all the binding presets and also everything I wanted to talk about in this video. As I said, the next video we're gonna look at how to create your own quick settings so you can change some of these, create your own binding presets, and create your own bindings as well in the binding sections.